Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to the 76th Reese's Senior Bowl. Just want to start off with a few thank yous before we get going into questions. First of all, I want to thank our office staff, Molly Middleton here to my right, Dave Rogers, who's there in the back, who was just checking the mics, Elizabeth Dupree, Aaron McDowell, Johnny Rogers, Jack Gilmore. Have done an awesome job. I just was sitting in my office with a scout from an NFL team a couple hours ago, and he was like, man, this is the most relaxed I've ever seen you during Senior Bowl week, and it's because we've got such a great team, and these guys have been together, and such a high care factor. I don't expect anyone to appreciate everything that it takes to pull this thing off, but it is a major lift for a staff of 6 people, and so I'm really proud of the team we have and what they put into this thing on a year-round basis. Also want to thank our scouting staff. We had 11 former NFL scouts this year. Those guys did a phenomenal job, really locating these players and evaluating them and helping them recruit to get here, because the recruiting aspect is a real aspect of this thing, and I think it's our best roster. So hats off to our scouts. They did a phenomenal job. They'll be down here all week, hoping to bounce back into the NFL, which we've had happen quite a few times. So hopefully that continues for these guys. Then our volunteer committee, our in-house, our in-office staff does an unbelievable job, as I said, but there's also 300 plus volunteers that really make this game different from the other All-Star games. Just being in this city for as long as it has been, and the city's embraced it, the volunteer committee, we couldn't do it without them. I want to thank the city of Mobile, Mayor Sandy Stimpson, everything they do for us. And then these players, the players that are here, the players that showed up, the 139 players that showed up yesterday, just says a lot about them. I told them last night at orientation, they made a statement by coming here to Mobile. These guys, we're living in an era where while a lot of people are telling these potential first-round picks not to come to a game like this, but I've said it from the beginning, I think they have more to gain than some of these mid to late round picks. So credit to those guys. A couple of things for this year. Our coaching staffs, Bubba Ventrone, special teams coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. Excited to get Bubba down here. He is more fired up than maybe any coach that we've had down here in his role. There's a cool personal connection. We drafted Bubba when I was in New England in 2005 as a scout, so it's been fun to watch his playing career blossom, and then this coaching track that he's on has been awesome. And then Mike Kafka, he's just finished his second interview with the New Orleans Saints, so I hope we have the problem of figuring it out midweek where we don't have a coach for one of the teams, so I hope that happens for Mike. He's been great. I'm old enough to have scouted Mike when he came out of Northwestern as a player, and we've got a lot of mutual common friends, so it's really cool having Mike on board. Going back to last year, just hit last year real quick, we had 10 guys on the all-rookie team this year, so that was really cool. Ladd McConkey and Bo Nix were kind of the headliners because they're fantasy guys, but had a bunch of the offensive line guys, JPJ, Dominic Pooney, just some really good players. Braden Fisk, kind of the story of last year's Senior Bowl, seeing what Braden did. Shouldn't be any surprise what Braden Fisk did replacing Aaron Donald because of what he did here in Mobile. This year's roster, we're really excited about it. I do feel like it's our best roster. It should be. We can bring juniors now, so they should be our best rosters. We had very little buy-in from the juniors last year. All 10 first-rounders were seniors, so I don't think that's going to be the case this year. If you just look at the D-line group alone, I guess in the O-line group as well, there's a lot of potential first-round guys in both those groups. So I think I'll get asked this, the 2 positions of strength, I think in the draft and really on these rosters are running back and defensive line. I think those are unusually strong groups. And then before we go to questions, I just want to say thank you again to one guy in the room right now, Dave Rogers, our director of marketing. He's been with me since the first year I got here. Dave was working remotely from Charlottesville, Virginia. He has been here every step of the way. He is the most loyal friend, and he's going to move on, and a great opportunity for his wife and his family. So really happy for Dave and his family, but we're going to miss him. And I know I'm speaking for Molly and the rest of the staff. Dave Rogers is one of a kind. He's an unbelievable human being. So happy for Dave. Obviously, I'm a little emotional. He means a lot to me. He's put a lot into this. He's helped build this thing. The social media presence was Dave Rogers. So he's done a ton. So love you, Dave. Good luck to you and Britt and the kids. And I know you'll be around, and I know I'll be seeing you. You better not harass me for a credential next week during game week like everyone else on my phone is right now. But love you, man. And open it up to questions.
Jim, if you could talk a little bit more about the running back class. I've seen some projections that as many as 30 guys this year could have draftable grades. What do you like about this group?
That's probably the number it was for us. For teams that need one, it's a good thing because the free agent class isn't great. It's really deep. It's really deep in the senior class. Usually before the junior thing, sometimes we'd struggle to get 8 draftable senior running backs in this game. Like, it just got to that point where you're in the 6th and 7th round and you didn't feel good about things. But with this junior class, it's beefed up, and the senior class is great. So, having an Ollie Gordon in this year's game, Damian Martinez, we had a late out with Trevor Etienne. We were going back and forth with Georgia's staff. They were telling us he wasn't coming out. So we went to our limit. We had 12 running backs. Etienne comes out. We just not going to not bring Trevor Etienne if he wants to come. So we added a 13th running back. So yeah, it's a great group. It's dynamic. Even our group here, it's a really diverse skill set group. You've got guys like Brashard Smith from SMU, Marcus Yarns from Delaware, who are like really cool third down backs that can detach, can play receiver. Brashard was a receiver. You got big backs like Damian, who weighed in at 240 some pounds. Ollie Gordon was 233 yesterday, so they come in all shapes and sizes. Donovan Edwards, he's another guy that can play some receiver, so it's a cool group. I mean, I think everyone in the league is trying to get to that point where Detroit is, where you have a true complementary backfield with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's kind of like whatever you need this year, there's guys out there, and I think the depth of the class is going to go into the 5th, 6th round. You're going to get good players in that range.
Who are some of the less heralded guys that scouts really pushing to get here?
That's a really good question. Less heralded guys scouts are pushing to get here. Well, they pushed for the Canadian quarterback last week. That was one of them. So that was cool to add Taylor to the roster last week. I'm trying to think of it. Now we're going back to like November when we did the calls of the teams. I'm trying to think of guys that the league was really high on. I'll think about it. I'll come back to it. I will. As soon as I think of it, I'll come back.
Gotcha.
Paul back here. Please raise your hand. Guys, we're going to do Paul right here.
Jim, why do you how did that all come about?
Yeah, so we had a roster spot open when Will Howard couldn't come. So I was bummed because Will and I have developed a really good friendship. He's the only player I've ever called Archie Manning for to get a spot in the Manning camp. And I did that a couple summers ago. And then I called Will last year when it became clear that Jaden Daniels wasn't coming to Mobile. We pivoted to Will Howard. And when I called him, he's like, Jim, I'm getting on a plane to Columbus in about an hour. So we missed our chance last year, but it worked out for Will and it worked out for the Buckeyes. But so yeah, we just pivoted. We had a spot, and Taylor was throwing the heck out of it down at the Tropical Bowl and the CGS. Shout out to those guys for finding Taylor, and I got to give credit to Ben Neal at QB Country. He was putting a bug in my ear about Taylor back in like October at QB Country Birmingham. So we've known about him. It's not like he just kind of popped on the radar, but it's a cool ad. I'm just watching him throw out there in the lobby, and the ball comes off his hand really tight. And the receivers, I was talking to the receivers who've been catching with him the last couple of days, and they say he's got real juice on his arm. So it's kind of how it came about.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Mary Kay.
How you doing?
Good.
Can you talk a little bit about just the quarterback class this year in general, and then also specifically about Jalen and Jackson who are here?
Yeah. Again, I think there's good depth to the class. I think there's some good guys. I think there's some guys that the league is still trying to figure out for different reasons. Like last year, it's certainly not last year. I don't know if anyone in this class would be in the top 6 of the guys last year. I don't know if any of these guys are Bo Nix or Penix or J.J. McCarthy. That was a unique class. I think we're going to look back and 15 years, the class of 2024 is one of the best classes ever. But to answer that, Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart, I think, are two guys that the league is really excited to see here. And I say that especially with Jackson Dart, my phone probably pinged more when we announced him than any other quarterback. Just because I think guys want to see him in a pro-style offense and throwing into tighter windows. I mean, I've said this a million times over the last few weeks, but I mean, Lane does such a good job there that he's throwing routes on air all the time, and that's not NFL football. So I've even said something to Jackson this week. You get ready to throw into tighter windows, but really excited to see him out there. And then Jalen Milroe, I've said this too. I mean, sitting up here 4 or 5 years ago, whatever that was. I mean, Jalen Hurts was a 4th or 5th round pick for most teams that year, going back to our calls in November. Jalen Milroe is certainly higher than that on most teams' board right now, so at least he's starting the process at a better place. And I hope none of you ask me if we're playing Jalen Milroe at running back like you did with Jalen Hurts that one year. So Jalen's got a really cool opportunity right now to help himself like Jalen Hurts did.
Hi, Jim. Thank you so much once again. Last year, I remember you discussed the historically low number of underclassmen in the draft and how teams had their day 3 draft boards obliterated. Are you getting a similar vibe this year? And if so, do you think it's the start of a new normal when it comes to the NFL draft?
The junior number was up a little bit this year. I think there's about a dozen more guys. I think last year was 58. This year was 70, I think, maybe 72. Certainly different. I don't think we're ever going back to the days where there's 140 juniors coming out in the draft. I think those days are long gone with NIL. Last year's group, this is a deeper class. I mean, if you just tie it back to our watch list in August, it was like 800 and some players. To me, that's a ridiculous number. I hated it that we put it out and it was that big, but you want to keep guys alive. But it's a deeper class. I don't think this draft is great up high. I've made that known on social media. I mean, I'm talking to teams where they've got 8, 9, 10 first-round grades right now. So I don't think it's a great draft to be way up high. I think you're going to see a lot of teams trying to trade back. But I do think there's good depth all the way through 7. I think you'll be able to find good players all the way through the 7th round.
Jim, I didn't see Tate Rutledge or Jarrett Wilson on the rosters, and the UGA linemen, did they back out? And
if they're not on the roster, for whatever reason, they're not here. I won't get into specifics about any of that stuff.
Okay, great, thank you. And the pass rushers, what does the pass rush group look like here for teams that are looking for to improve their pass rush?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I really love the edge group we brought. Sacks is a really transferable stat, and pressures and QB pressure rate, all that stuff. I mean, if you can get to the quarterback in college, like that really is one thing that carries over. And you got Mike Green from Marshall, big prove-it week for him, led the country in sacks with 17. Donovan Izaraku from Boston College, 16.5, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Kyle Kennard at South Carolina, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Josiah Stewart at Michigan. I mean, it is a loaded group. I mean, one-on-ones are good. One-on-ones are always fun. I think we all love one-on-ones. But one-on-ones are going to be really fun this year because the tackle group as well. You look at the juniors: Jonas Avenea, Emory Jones, Armand Membu, Marcus Bowe. I mean, when you got first-round pick against first-round pick, it's going to be a ton of fun.
Right back here.
Hey, Simone.
Is it working? Hi, I'm on now. Hi, Simone, WK.
You don't need a microphone.
I know.
I usually can hear you without a
I
microphone.
really, most people can. I was literally just going to shout. Jim, last year, such a huge success in terms of turnout, a sellout, in terms of ticket sales. Can you talk about where you're at right now, and really what's your message to the city with all of the great events this week and everything that's kind of upcoming to look forward to?
Yeah, the forecast is looking better day by day. Your boy Ed Bloodsworth, I'm checking in with him every day at WKRG. I think we're under 500 tickets left. So, I mean, last year in week we sold over 3,000. So I think I can safely say we're going to get to that sellout. But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. I think for the community, I'll say 2 things. It's a unique game. If you come and sit in the stands and make that thing look packed, you are, in my mind, you are really doing a civic duty. You're doing something good for your community because we want to keep this game strong in Mobile. And in the same breath, I'll talk about Senior Bowl All-Star Lager. You drink a beer from Trim Tab Brewery, and you are getting a kickback there to your community as well that we pump back into your husband's football program next year. So, yeah, everything we're trying to do is about Mobile.
Hey, Jim, you talked about the Lions and the running game. Do you think the way that Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry have had so much success on second contracts is going to cause teams to reevaluate their willingness to invest in the running back position and see that as more of a position you can have long-term success with?
I do. I mean, it's just a 1 year. I mean, the trend was going away from it, right? So I don't know if like 1 year is enough to say, okay, we're turning back, we're pulling a U-turn here. But I do think, especially, it's like going to time up well with this running back class. So, you know, you get a flood of really good young runners into the league at one time. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of teams prioritize the position.
Right up here in the middle.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Craig.
With the way the league is now, with receivers, smaller guys can excel. What does that say for Tess Johnson and Jamal Pritchett, guys like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone knows it's become more of a space game. It's just, and again, not just, and these guys are protected more. You know, you can run free over the middle without fear of Ronnie Lott or, you know, David Fulcher, Benny Blades knocking your head off. So I'm sorry for the dated references for the younger people in the room, but yeah, it is. So guys like Tez and Tank, we all saw what Tank Dell did down here a couple years ago. Not saying Tez is Tank. I think Tank's a pretty unique player, but yeah, it's a more space game. Size isn't as big an issue. 15 years ago, guys, you know, Tank size and Tutu Atwell and Tez, I mean, they would have really been more heavily scrutinized, but it's a more wide open game.
All right, last question over here to the right.
We can keep going. I'm having fun, Molly.
Just gotta get
I'm
going.
teasing.
Hi, Jim.
Hey.
Once again, thank you again for putting up this event. Your team does great work every year. You know, you guys put out so many invites every year, build some incredible rosters year in, year out. Is there one specific accepted invite this year that kind of holds like some kind of special place to you this year at all? Any special invite?
That's a really good one. Gosh, I'm getting stumped. That's not good on the mic, getting stumped on the mic. There is a player, and I won't say his name because it's going to indict an agent, but we had a player accepted, really good player, a top 100 player, who accepted his invite in November, and then I get a phone call in mid-December saying, you know, Mr. Nagy, I'm really about my inner circle, and I've talked it out with my family and my agent, and I've decided not to play in the game. And I pitched the game pretty strongly, I'll leave it at that, and made a phone call to his head coach, and he probably pushed the game even more strongly than I did. And to the player's credit, he called back 4 days later and said, you know, Mr. Nagy, do you still have that spot for me? Because I want to come compete. And I said, 100%, dude, get your butt to Mobile. So that one, I wish I could say the name, but you don't find a lot of players right now that go against their agent's wishes. And I told him, I said, I'm going to tell the league about this. Like, the teams need to know you did this, that you were man enough to go against, because it was the right decision. I mean, we're not talking about a guy that's a top 10 pick. And you know, everyone probably knows my feelings on that. If you're a top 5, top 10 pick, I'm not an idiot. Like, if you don't want to come to the Senior Bowl, that's fine. But like, you know, there's a certain point where I think all these guys can benefit. So to me, that one meant a lot. I wish I could share the name, but I'd rather not.